Welcome to the Social Impact Journal, the podcast where we talk to changemakers driving social impact around the world. I'm your host, Jack Farren, and this podcast is produced in collaboration with Rural Inclusion. In our first episode, we talked to Dr Paroma Bhattacharya, who is a teaching faculty member for the Masters in Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the London School of Economics and Political Science. We talk about what makes a good social entrepreneur and advice for those starting out on their social entrepreneurship journey. Welcome everybody to the first ever episode of the Social Impact Journal, and I'm really excited to be with Dr Paroma Bhattacharya today. I actually met with Dr Paroma in Ethiopia at a conference on engineering inclusive economies in October 2022, and I'm very excited to have her as the very first guest of the Social Impact Journal. Dr Paroma, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. Nice to speak with you today. Thank you for having me here.
No, thank you for joining. Maybe you can give a brief introduction of yourself and your work to the audience.
Sure. So I'm Paroma Bhattacharya. I'm originally from India, grew up there, worked there initially before moving to the UK. So I'm based in the UK now in London. I have a PhD in management, focusing on social innovation and entrepreneurship. And currently, I'm researching and teaching social innovation at the London School of Economics. As part of my role, I do research, teaching, and startup advisory and incubation. I'm based in the Department of Management, and I also lead the knowledge and ecosystem piece at the LSE Social Innovation Lab.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'd love to know where your career got started. Before you got into teaching, what was your first job? And what did you learn from that?
Sure. So, I had a job that started during my undergrad days and extended beyond that. And then I had my first main job after I did my master's. So the first job in my younger days was with an international NGO called ISEC. It's, I think, in about more than 110 countries across the world. And my role was designing leadership development programs for youth who wanted to join the social impact sector. And this was a very enriching experience. I got to travel to a lot of places. I had got a lot of global work experience. It really built my cross-cultural awareness, public speaking, communication skills. So I really valued that. And that's what pushed me to then do a master's in development management to then take this on professionally. And then right after I did that, my first real job was as a startup coach at Unlimited India, which is an incubator for early stage social entrepreneurs in India. And here my role involved coaching first-time social entrepreneurs on organizational development and leadership development. And this really deepened my knowledge of the space and honed my coaching and training skills and set me up for the future, I think.
That's really interesting. And maybe a question on that work with working with first-time social entrepreneurs in India. What was the one biggest challenge that you feel that social entrepreneurs had of those that you were working with?
I think in the early stages, it's really about attracting and mobilizing different types of resources and capital. So a lot of the focus and attention, of course, goes into attracting that early stage financial capital, which of course is very important. But some of the two of the other ones that are equally important that sometimes gets left behind in the conversation is attracting and retaining good human capital. So your first founding teams that's going to carry you forward. And then really capitalizing on social capital. So building your networks and connections that can open various opportunities for you. So balancing this financial capital, human capital, social capital triangle, I think that's where the challenge, but also the opportunity is for first-time social entrepreneurs.
Amazing. So you're working with different startups and also in the international NGO space. Mm-hmm. What motivated you to go into teaching after your master's?
I think through my first few jobs and my time in the youth NGO ISEC, I really enjoy working with young people. I gain a lot of energy from their passion, their vision for the future and making a difference in the world. So I really wanted to have a role that allowed me to, engage with passionate, young, talented individuals on a daily basis. And I had learned a lot in the domain of social innovation and social impact. And I had a quest for lifelong learning, but I also wanted to create and disseminate this knowledge in a practical way and make it more accessible for people and to empower future generations to make a change if they want to. So I think that was what pushed me and inspired me to go into teaching.
Okay, and looking at your role in LSC, you mentioned you're involved in a number of areas, both teaching around social innovation and entrepreneurship, also in an incubator program. It would be great to hear a bit more about what exactly you're up to at LSC.
Sure. So, I mean, my role at LSE has evolved over the past 6 years. So I actually started off as a teaching assistant when I was a PhD student. Then I used to teach the summer school, and then now I'm a full-time faculty member. And my role right now, so I teach on the Masters in Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, which is a part of the Department of Management. Every year we have about 45 to 50 students from across the world, coming from a mix of backgrounds, and really quite experienced as well. And the course has two main modules. So the first part is understanding social problems. So in this semester, students really spend a lot of time on doing a research and deep dive into the social problem that they want to address, and build a theory of change. And in the second semester, the module is called Social Business Model Design. So once they've done the research and understood the problem in depth, then designing an appropriate solution for that. And all of this is done either through their individual projects that they do for their own ventures, or both together through a consulting project that they have, that they're paired with a live organization in either Nairobi or Cape Town. So involved with all of that, teaching and organizing all of this. And then I also organize the Social Innovation Events Program as part of my role in the LSE Social Innovation Lab. So this is a year-long program, involving bringing in speakers who are social entrepreneurs or who are working as social intrapreneurs within larger organizations, be it corporate, nonprofit, government, to really bring in that practical industry knowledge to complement the academic learning. And then the third piece is academic mentoring and incubation of student ideas. So students either want to be social entrepreneurs after they graduate, or they want to be social intrapreneurs, catalyzing new ideas within existing organizations. So really being there to understand the social student ideas and giving them the space and guidance to build this out during the academic year. So these would be the main components of my role.
Okay, amazing. And the goal of the Social Impact Journal, and as we go through this series, is to share the key ingredients of successful social impact, from sharing stories, founders, and innovators that are in the field. But before we get started with that, I really wanted to have this conversation today to talk with yourself, who are teaching the next generation of social entrepreneurs, and really understand what are the key principles that makes a good social entrepreneur or innovator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can answer this based on what I've seen through my research during my PhD and after, and also what I've seen through my work and my teaching. So the first thing I'd say that has come out very strongly through my research is a good social entrepreneur needs to have a really high level of passion for the specific social cause that they want to address. And this passion comes from a personal connection. It could be a significant life experience, an academic or professional background on that domain, or simply a very compelling interest and attraction towards that cause. But this passion is what creates social entrepreneurs to be resilient in the face of adversity or challenges, because there will be many challenges in the entrepreneurial journey. But this really carries the entrepreneur through. And also, this is very key as well when hiring your first team members, to look for that congruence in social cause passion, to make sure that the whole team as well is bound together by that common passion. So my PhD was on this topic, researching passion, purpose, performance in startup social venture teams in India. So this need for a strong level of passion, I'd say, would be the first key thing. And then the second thing is, this is something my former boss at Unlimited India had told me, which really stuck, is as a social entrepreneur, you need to be married to the problem, not the solution. So related to the passion point, you need to really be very focused on the social problem you want to address, really understand the needs of the target group that you want to work with. And it should not be idea first. I see a lot of times in this domain, people, are very excited about an idea, and they're motivated more by the idea than the social problem that they want to address. But I believe that to succeed and create impact in this domain, you need to be married to the problem and be in love with the problem and be willing to adapt and pivot your solution in order to make sure that it's the best way to address that problem. So essentially have a strong theory of change.
That's very interesting, to be married to the problem, not be married to the solution.
Yeah.
From listening to your work, it's clear that you've had the opportunity to travel to lots of places, and with LSC, the program you have in Nairobi and Cape Town, also with your working with startups in India. Mm-hmm. What is the favorite place you've had the opportunity to travel to around the world in your career?
I'd have to say Kenya, and specifically Nairobi. So I had a chance to go there as a student when I was working with ISEC. So I went there for a youth conference, met a lot of young, passionate people there working towards social change. But then as part of my work at LSE now, we have field projects based in Nairobi. So I had a chance to go, of course, before the pandemic hit, and then I will be going over shortly again. And the reason I really love Nairobi and Kenya is from the social innovation perspective, it has a very vibrant startup ecosystem. It reminds me a lot of Mumbai back in India, where I'm from, which also has a very thriving startup ecosystem. So whether you go to university, speak to young people, or we're usually based in a community-based organization in a slum community called Mukuru, and even just walking around, just seeing the entrepreneurial spirit among everyone, local entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, it's really very energizing. There's so much creativity and innovation, making use of resources around them. So that's why I really love going to Kenya. But the food, people, and wildlife are additional attractions as well, of course.
For sure. I've been to Kenya quite a few times with my work with rural inclusion. So yeah, I can understand what you mean.
Yep.
Do you have any interesting or unique stories that you've experienced, maybe in your work, or a specific case study of working with a social entrepreneur?
Sure. I can think of two at the top of my head. So one is from my time when I used to work as a startup business coach at Unlimited India. There is this organization called Oscar, run by this amazing social entrepreneur called Ashok Rathod. And essentially, he's a community-based entrepreneur coming from a local slum community in Mumbai. And he was really young, and he saw a lot of his peers falling into a vicious cycle, with drugs or crime. And he really wanted to break that. And in the social innovation domain, we have this theory called scaffolding, which is essentially you have a covert goal, but you don't want to reveal that first because it's a tricky topic, and revealing that first will not have the intended impact, and people will not come to your solution. So you start with something else, which is your overt goal. So in order to engage his peers meaningfully and take them away from crime and drugs, he started this local football sort of classes and program in the local ground, and it built with that. But then slowly he built it out into a whole training program, which covered aspects of team building, social and emotional learning, gender equality, and it really grew from there to the point that now it has scaled a lot, has a lot of students in various locations, and the students now actually travel to the UK a lot to play with some junior clubs like Manchester United. So it started as a small project that he saw to help his peers live more meaningful lives, and now it's become a very successful scaled organization, and he's a very inspiring person to speak to. So I always love that example. And then the second one would be one of my students last year, Shamel Abdallah. She had a visual disability, and she came to class and noticed various things in the educational ecosystem in the UK that could be better geared to be more inclusive with students with disabilities. So through the year, we helped her build an idea, a social business idea, which can help universities become more inclusive. And towards the end of the year, it's become more concrete. She has pitched it as part of some funding competitions, and has won and received some early stage funding as well. So we're really at that stage where we're hoping to help her build this out and grow, because she's such an inspiring person as well, with a great personal connection to the story.
Thank you, Dr. Paroma. I think they're two really interesting case studies, and if that's okay with you, we can share some links to their projects in the show notes.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Brilliant. So looking ahead to the coming year, what are your key goals for 2023?
The coming year, I want to focus first personally on getting some publications out. So all the research that I've been doing so far on passion and purpose, performance, or startup social ventures, really creating some academic and also practical oriented publications and white papers to disseminate that knowledge. I had a good time teaching last year, with developed my teaching practice quite a bit, but it was definitely hybrid learning. So I want to iterate and build on that to build on my teaching practice further this year. And then actually, as part of the Frontier Symposium where we both met, I got funded on a new project working with a social enterprise in the menstrual hygiene space in Kenya. So I also want to focus on that in the coming year, on that project, to create sustainable sanitary products for young women in Kenya.
That's great. Maybe you could tell me a bit more about that project. That seems really interesting.
Sure. So I actually met Catherine, who is the social entrepreneur behind Silmac Genesis Care, at Frontier Symposium. So she's from Kenya. She's an inspiring social entrepreneur, and she has an existing enterprise that creates end-to-end menstrual hygiene solutions for young girls and women in Nairobi and surrounding areas. And then I met her and two other collaborators, Amos from Kenya and Rima from India. And we were chatting on how to increase the impact of this project even further. So the project is around pivoting from being the current model, which is the machines that she creates dispenses pads, but to make them more environmentally sustainable using locally available agricultural raw material. So pivoting the enterprise's offering from being social impact driven to also being social and environmental impact driven. And my role in this project is, looking at the social innovation side, business modeling, and my other collaborators bring technical expertise in the domain of engineering, manufacturing, circular economy. So it's a very exciting project. We're still in the early stages, but definitely the coming year will be a lot about this program.
Excellent. And best of luck with that.
Thank you.
So on this podcast, as we grow the Social Impact Journal, I want to ask a question to all of our guests, and that is, if you could write one thing in the Social Impact Journal that can inspire or give advice to a young change maker or a budding social entrepreneur, what one piece of advice would you give? I think you've already shared a really key piece of advice in marrying the problem, not the idea or solution. But is there anything else that you were able to give?
Yes, in addition to being married to the problem, not the solution, another key piece I'd say, this came a lot into play when I was a startup coach at Unlimited India. We would talk about thinking about 4 I's. So idea, impact, individual, and incubation. So this is related directly to Unlimited India's methodology. So you can refer to that as well in your notes. But essentially, as a person looking to start out, they should have a clear idea in terms of the path that they want to take, the problem that they want to address, and the solution to that. So what is their idea? The second I is impact. So being very clear on the social impact they want to achieve, and being very long-term about it. So not being short-term, one-time interactions with their target group, but what is the long-term sustainable impact that this individual wants to create through their enterprise? The third I is individual. So this comes back to the passion piece, being very clear on what their story is. Why are they the people who are the right people to be leading this social enterprise? What is their personal connection to the cause? Because at the early stage, there's a lot of risk and uncertainty with the idea and the venture. But what people are placing their bet on, what people are willing to back is the individual. And if the individual comes across as passionate and resilient in the face of adversity, then people will support them. And the final I would be incubation. So being very clear at the early stage, what kind of help do you need? So you'll already have some strengths, but what are your gaps in your knowledge and your skill set, and what kind of help do you need from the ecosystem around you, from incubators, accelerators, partners, potential advisors. So the 4 I's of Unlimited India, I think, apply to any aspiring social entrepreneur as well.
Absolutely. And I think that brings us to a natural end of chapter 1, episode 1 of the Social Impact Journal. Dr. Paroma, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom and advice around social entrepreneurship and innovation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jack. This is an amazing project that you've started, and I wish you all the best for the podcast. And I look forward to hearing many inspiring stories through the podcast as well.
Thank you. See you soon.